Hello everyone. Today we are going to look into how to integrate Temporal.io into SigNoz. Temporal.io is a tool to run workflows, async workflows specifically with durable execution. And we have launched an OpenTelemetry native integration with Temporal.io. So we will be integrating metrics, traces, logs, everything into SigNoz in a unified platform with correlations across the signals. To get started, I will show you where you can find the docs to instrument your temporal applications and workers properly so that you can get the OpenTelemetry native metrics. So this is the docs, SigNoz docs. You can go to integrations in the temporal sections. You will find cloud metrics and the different languages, Golang and TypeScript. Okay. So cloud metrics is something that the temporal server in the cloud exposes, and we will use promptly to scrape binary to get those metrics and expose them as endpoints. And we'll have a total collector to scrape the metrics. Now this can be pushed then to SigNoz Cloud, and you can download the JSON for the dashboard and import it and start viewing the data. There is another language-specific telemetry that you receive. These are received from the SDKs, temporal SDKs that you put into your applications. Okay. So you in metrics you will have SDK metrics, and you will have traces and logs data accompanying them. Okay. So you'll add interceptors to your code, and this sample temporal Golang OpenTelemetry instrumentation is available at this repository, which you can play around and browse the code so that you get easily instrumented into the OpenTelemetry ecosystem. You will add an interceptor and define the loggers metrics handler and the tracing interceptor. Once this is done, you can see the explanation of the files, or what they're trying to do. Probably like these, the ones export the different attributes of temporal, like workflow type, activity type, and namespace, so that you can slice and dice on the data. Then you can put a few things in the temporal as interceptors to start sending the traces data, and you can run the workers, the temporal workers, with some environment variables like service name, and start sending the data to either a local portal collector, or you can directly send from the application to the region specific endpoint with your ingestion token. So once you have set up these things in your dashboard and in your your application, you'll start sending the data to SigNoz, and you can use the log parsers in the SigNoz at the logs pipeline to parse the logs properly so that you can utilize the data and slice and dice on the logs data. So once you have those incoming, you'll see all the traces and logs data with the right attributes. So let me take you directly to the applications where the temporal applications when they have sent data to SigNoz. So this is what something it will look like. So you will have temporal clients, that is workflows, executions where it all started, and then there will be temporal workflows where you will execute those workflows that were submitted to the temporal cloud. So we have two workers and two clients. Let us go and check out worker two. These are the EPM metrics. So you can see the P90, 99, and P50 latencies, the RPS that is handling, and all the key operations that you have here, right? So you have activity 1, 2, 3, and the run workflow stuff. And if your application instruments any database, you'd see them here. We have not instrumented any database yet, so it is empty. So we are doing an external call to an endpoint like SigNoz.io, just for a dummy as a dummy scraping data, and you will see that we are able to instrument those also automatically. So it shows you like whatever external calls you have instrumented, so they will start appearing here. What is average duration, duration by address, and RPS. Okay, so let us go directly from here to, let's say, a run workflow operation. So this will take you directly to the traces page with the service name with the service name and the span name selected. Okay, you can slice and dice on different attributes of the span that we have. So let me take you to one of the traces where we'll be able to see what is happening down there. So this trace starts from temporal client 2 with a start workflow command. Then it then goes to the temporal worker where the workflow is actually run with the name run workflow. It starts activity one and activity two, um, and let us check the attributes. So the attributes has activity type, which is activity one. Then there is temporal namespace, temporal run ID, task queue, workflow ID, and the workflow type. So all these are attributes. So these are the attributes that we took the large efforts to instrument from the integrations part. And now all of these attributes are available to be sliced and diced. Okay, so let me take you to an example where you want to um, see uh, average duration of all the activities. Okay, so let me will do workflow um, ID exists to make sure they are temporal, or you can just grep on uh, the service name or uh, even the name of the span. You can group by activity type. Not just gives you count. I would like to know the duration, average duration nano. Right now, let us run this query. So you'll see temporal activity 3, 1, and 2 are there and with their respective average latencies. All right. Now let's come to logs. In logs, um, we tried to integrate the temporal internal SDK logger with the OpenTelemetry logger, or if you extended it to some custom logger that you follow, and that would also be it. So we are following zero logger in Golang to instrument in JSON, and the body has all of these attributes: task queue, span ID, run ID, and everything. Right. So what we did is we added uh, pipeline where we by default we parse the JSON, then we parse the trace ID, and we parse the level into severity text. So once these are done, you will see all the attributes from the body being extracted into attributes. So you can see trace ID, task queue, worker ID, worker type, workflow ID. So this enables all the same slicing and dicing of data. From apart from slicing and dicing, you can go to traces directly from the logs here. Okay, so you can click on the trace ID part of the logs, and you can see, okay, which trace did it belong to. Now, from even if you're in some traces specifically, you can go back to the logs and check which logs would it belong to, right? So this traces to logs, logs to traces is out of box available once you parse the trace ID in the logs properly. Now let's go to metrics. So we have a couple of dashboards, like one is temporal SDK metrics that you get along with the instrumentation that you did in the integrations, and you will be able to see like what is the workflow task execution latency, what is the end-to-end latency here. It is around 6 to 7 seconds. So this is scheduled to start latency. So workflows completed by type, 1 day, how many temporal requests, number of uh, pollers, request latency, 90, 99, 50. All of these things will be available, right? And these are SDK metrics. So if you have interest in schedule to start latencies, you will find them in the SDK metrics. Now let's look at the cloud metrics that we have. So we have a worker poll success rate, and all of this timeout rate and all of these metrics here from the cloud. Um, Front end requests that are being served is also here based on different um, uh, the task queues and all. We have something interesting here in the um, actions. So we show like how many actions were run in the last 1 day, 7 days, and 30 days, along with the rate, and the same with the straight transitions. Okay. So 1 day transitions, 7 day transitions, and 30-day transitions along with the rate. Got it. And you can choose the different namespaces from the drop down to plot their charts. There's a very third dashboard that I specifically built called Temporal Insights, which is a bit interesting because I tried to get the relevant different kinds, so tried to plot the different kinds of panels that is relevant for temporal. So I started with, I enabled the workflow ID as a text box here. Um, which you can input and copy paste from wherever you find it, either from the logs or interesting trace or somewhere. So I used trace to plot uh, the latencies of different activities. Now this plots the slowest workflow execution. Okay, so these are the run workflow that has the slowest, 37 seconds. Uh, then we have workflow completed by workers. So how many workers are completing the workflow, um, and all that different kinds of stuff. Right. So I'll tell you the power of slicing and dicing of data here. So what you can do is, once you know which are the slowest workflow executions, I'll show you the query. This is how the query looks like. The name contains run workflow, and order by duration nano, right? And when you click on any one of the rows there, you will be taken directly to the trace that was slow, right? So, and the span already selected. So this was taking 6.94 seconds, which was available there. Okay. Let me see. Now this is the interesting part. We have a time series of different activities. So let us check the creed one, where activity one is taking 690 milliseconds. We click on the dot and it um, asks soldiers to go to traces, because the data source of this panel is traces. Now we can click on view traces and it will take to the traces with the correct um, attributes already selected. Now let me briefly show you what query did we provide. So we just filtered on the name contains run activity and average duration nano and group by temporal activity type. Okay, so that was the query. It took us to the Trace Explorer page where the temporal activity type was already selected and the name contains run activity was already selected, and the time period was also selected, right? So like if you observe the spike somewhere, you can go directly from the dashboards into the Trace Explorer page, and then you can click or select the one that is interesting to you, and you can go to the relevant trace. Again, this trace has all the relevant information that you need to slice and dice the data, like temporal activity ID, um, temporal activity type, temporal namespace, run ID, task queue, workflow ID, and workflow type. Right. So that is a pretty interesting piece according to me. And what more you can do is, let us go and just grab some workflow ID from the logs. Um, Let me just copy this workflow ID um, from here. Got it. And I will go and paste this workflow ID into the temporal insights dashboard that we created. Now we have a couple of more panels where we show all the spans for that is exact workflow ID, along with the logs from that exact workflow ID. Now this shows all the spans and this shows all the logs, right? So I have created different columns on workflow type, namespace, task queue, and activity type. If anything is of interest to you, you can click on it and see the logs detailed directly from there, from the dashboard panel, without any further linking or correlation. It automatically detects the data source, which is logs, and the attributes that are relevant. So this is a list view. So this works fantastically with the list view because we are listing the logs. So it can directly open the logs. The same should be true for the traces also, because we are listing traces with different column names. Let's just click on this run activity, activity 2. So it will take me to the right trace, and this run activity, activity 2 will be automatically selected. So that is the beauty of having attributes of temporal specific keywords extracted out and being able to slice and dice on that data in a unified platform where we have access to metrics, traces, and logs, everything together. So that's all. I hope you like the feature.